Well, this is a first for Turf Business TV. We're joined now by the power of the internet by four big names in the industry to talk about what's happening and what's possibly going to be the outcome of the coronavirus on our industry. I'm joined by David Roxburgh from Rangers, Paul Burgess from Real Madrid, Scott Tingley from Watford and Stuart Kerrison from Essex County Cricket. Firstly, guys, thanks for joining us and thanks for taking out time in what I'm sure is a hectic series of things you're getting on with. If I can start off by just asking how we're all getting on with the current situation and how your organisations are. So, David, perhaps you want to start off on that.
Yeah, everything up here very much like the rest of the UK, very quiet. Most of the staff are in furlough, half of my staff are in furlough. But we're carrying on as we can. We're carrying out renovations of the main pitch. I have a few renovations to be up at the training ground. So we are maintaining things more than renovating other than a few pitches. But all in all, we're looking after ourselves. We're keeping safe as much as we can and look forward to when we can get back playing football again.
Scott, is that pretty much the same for you or have you got a different outlook?
Yeah, very similar. I think we don't have any staff on furlough at all, but we're on reduced numbers at both the stadium and the training ground. We're currently in the process of renovating the stadium at the moment. We'd like to do a couple at the training ground, but I think as where we're at the moment in terms of economically, it's not really the done thing to be going out spending loads of money on renovations and stuff when there's not necessarily any money coming in. So we may have to kind of bear with what we've got at the training ground and make the most of that situation. So I think we're going to end up with two quite sort of different scenarios really. We're going to have the stadium that's going to run through next season on exactly the same processes as normal, whereas the training ground we might have to kind of think about things a little bit differently and do things in a different way. But staff-wise, we're on sort of reduced numbers. The lads are doing just 4-hour days each day on alternate days, so they're working 2 days one week and 3 days the next. Complete shutdowns at weekends. I think that's going to have to change slightly once we've renovated the stadium, because obviously in a couple of weeks' time it's not really going to be possible to grow a pitch in what might have to be a really short window. Doing 4-hour days, there's going to have to be more work than that. So how we get around that, I'm not sure yet, but probably shift work and people coming in every day, but for smaller sections, smaller amounts of time.
What about team morale? Because you're all used to being together in mess rooms and working together and banter, etc.
Yeah, we've kind of had that today, to be honest. We've got actually all of my staff at the stadium are in today, but they're working on completely separate projects at different ends of the pitch. And it's actually really kind of, it's a strange scenario because the guys want to talk to each other, they're friends as well. They want to talk to each other, they might need a hand with something, but actually they can't have that help. So it's been awkward and kind of difficult to do what we've got to do whilst maintaining that social distancing, but it's something that's definitely, I mean, I've been on at the lads about it and just make sure they keep a distance from each other, and we're working in the same pairs at all times rather than sort of crossing those pairs over at both sides. So at the moment it's working quite well, and unfortunately no one's had any kind of illness or anything like that. No one's had a need to be off work. So at the moment we're coping all right, but it's a strange one personally as well, kind of communicating with each other and not really being able to behave in the normal way. You're conscious about washing your hands all the time. You're conscious about two guys going into the tea room making a cup of tea. Well, the next guys that come in have to do exactly the same thing, but they're conscious that two people have just been in there. So I mean that's been awkward so far.
Stuart, you've got a bit of a different situation, I think, haven't you, with your setup?
Yeah, we were just coming into our season. We was literally due to start that week that they shut the country down, sort of. We're on furlough, all of my staff. I'm the only one in here at Chelmsford. I've got a lad down at Billericay, our satellite ground, our training facility. Yeah, it's been tough. It's been quite nice in some respects. I've gone back out on the tools, and you've almost fell in love with the trade again, really, rather than doing meetings and all this all the other managerial side of it. I'm actually been able to do the physical side of it and do the jobs myself. We prepped like we were going to have a start to the season. I've done all the pre-season roll-in. We're just tickling along now at the moment. We're waiting to see what happens. I mean, the ECB have said that we're not going to play until the 28th of May at the very earliest, and that looks unlikely. Even training before that. So we're just plodding along. I'm doing it all myself here, one lad at another ground. And yeah, it's a bit tough on some of the lads because I took on 2 staff for the summer at the beginning of March, and they're not eligible for furlough, which has been really difficult for them. So there's been those little bits and pieces like that which slip through the radar and people miss.
Paul, it's all over the press how tough Spain's having it. So what's the situation with you guys in Madrid?
Well, it's been pretty tough. We're into week 5 now of the lockdown. Things are just starting to improve now. I think we're about 10 days ahead of you guys in where we are. But the lockdown here has been pretty hard. You can't leave the house for exercise or anything like that. You got to have special permission to go to work. We've been working basically with about 50% of staff most of the time. And that's it really. It's been a lot of scared people and nervous people, and we've got the morgue is actually next door, so it's not very nice, obviously. With the death rates, we were like 950 people per day at one point, so it's pretty tough.
And in terms of your team's morale, you say they're scared. I mean, how are you kind of keeping them on board?
Well, just trying to keep people busy and obviously keep everyone separated in terms of obviously we basically divided the team into 4 groups. 2 groups went home, and then 2 groups, one's working like a morning shift and one's working an afternoon shift, so that if we did have a problem with someone falling ill, we've got basically 4 bites of the cherry before we had no staff. Obviously it was a bit more of an unknown 5 weeks ago compared to what it is now, and obviously testing starting now and all the rest of it. And then we're hoping to, on the 27th of April, we're going to go back to full staff. By rights, I could go to full staff now. As we work outside, we could go to full staff now, but we're not. We're staying at half staff. We've got no teams training at the moment, so we're doing like half the pitches have been renovated, and we're doing no nutrition, so all the pitches are not growing very fast, and most of the work's actually in the gardens. So
looking beyond how you're dealing with the crisis at the moment, guys, where do you think you're going to be in terms of the quality of your surfaces when you come out the other side? Shall we start with you, Stuart?
Yeah, well, obviously we need a little bit of lead up time with us with regards to starting. So if they decided they were going to start on the 1st of June cricket, then we'd need a couple of weeks beforehand to get the pitches ready, get the actual playing surfaces dried out. I've been told by our coach that the players will need 2 to 4 weeks warm-up time, especially for bowlers, to get their muscles ready, because although they're doing a lot of training at home, it's difficult to simulate bowling in your front room sort of thing. That sort of thing. They've got to get themselves match fit, and we'll be a big part of that. So I would envisage that we'd have our staff in a couple of weeks before the players come in, but that will give us the chance to catch up. Like I said, I'm just ticking things along really. I'm making sure we don't get a thatch build up. So I've been out ultra grooming this morning, tidying up and keeping on top of the outfield. We've put some primo down to stop it from growing too quickly. We're trying to cut the feedback, like Paul was saying. We're trying all the different tricks. We've raised the height of cut. We're up to 17, 18 mil now. We've been in a bit of a drought down here in the southeast. I think we've had 6 mil in the last 40 days. So we've had hardly anything, and I haven't got an irrigation system on the outfield, so that's actually helped. Mother Nature has helped slow up the grass growth. But I think once we come through it, the longer it goes on, the longer we'll need to recover the pitches. So we've said 2 weeks at the moment, but I think if you get into July, August time, you'll be looking at 3 weeks just to get things tidied up. Because it's not just the playing surface, there's other bits and pieces around the edge. And like I say, we're at a massively reduced capacity with the staffing.
David, up in Scotland, obviously, given the way you're dressed this morning, there's a slightly different climate up there, given to the rest of us in T-shirts and shorts. How are you thinking things are going to be when you get the other side of this?
Well, nature's playing its part up here. We're always a good 2 to 3 weeks behind, certainly from centre England down the way. So we're very cold. Growth's still relatively slow. Nutritionally, we're just doing the very minimum. At the training ground, I've only got a couple of guys in, and all they're doing is just cut maintenance cuts. But in a couple of weeks' time, things will start to move if the weather improves. We'll need to apply feeds. With a couple of pitches up there, we will renovate. The rest of them, it'll just be a maintenance cut. And yeah, they'll come back and bite us as we get through next winter. Ibrox, as I mentioned earlier there, we've just finished the renovation. We're just about to put seed in the ground next couple of days. Ibrox will be good. Ibrox will be fine. It's a normal renovation. However, we don't know the number of games that's going to come at us next year, or this year, for instance. Are we going to finish the season? Are we going to finish that season midweek? Are we going to play the normal season? There's so many unknowns that we can't really budget for. But the renovation's done. The pitch will grow. It's earlier than we've ever done it. We've never renovated Ibrox in April. It's normally the end of May. So, yeah, we had quite a sharp frost this morning. I scraped my windscreen this morning before I came to work. So it's pretty cold at night, warm during the day, but cold at night. So nature is holding things back ever so slightly. But give it another couple of weeks, things will move, and things will move rapid.
So in terms of, you're not knowing when games are going to start, or, how many games the pitch is going to have to put up with, do you have to kind of pick what's the worst case scenario and work towards that, or you're holding fire and making a decision?
Well, I'm glad we renovated the pitch, because if we didn't renovate the pitch, as you know, we had a very bad season this year. We had a couple of incidents and a game cancelled, and the amount of rain we had up here during February was just unbelievable. So we couldn't have went through a full season without renovating that pitch. So the pitch has been renovated, it's got a chance. We're not due back, the players are not due back at this stage until the 10th of June. That seems to be the earliest indication that we'll have anyone back for pre-season training. So there'll be a good 2 to 3 weeks pre-season training before a ball's kicked. Just like cricket, the players need to condition themselves. But we don't know what's going to happen in Europe. We've got pre-qualifiers to play up in Scotland, so it's very much up in the air at the moment. And of course, as you're well aware, the Rangers and SPFL are probably at war at each other at the moment with deciding, do we dish out the prizes, do we don't? So there's an awful lot of uncertainty. But at the moment, the 10th of June is what I'm aiming for, certainly the training ground. And I don't see much happening in Ibrox until maybe mid-July, towards the end of July. So it's the longest sort of close season that I've ever had. So I'm hopeful that I can produce a decent pitch.
Scott, slightly different conditions, but I guess similar problems in terms of uncertainty. How do you think things are going to fare?
I don't know, to be honest. I think it's just that uncertainty, is not knowing when. I mean, we took the decision to renovate last week at the stadium, and it was something that I pushed for because, I'm quite fortunate in so much as the pitch wasn't renovated before I came here, and the club are well aware of what happens if you don't do that. Now, okay, they didn't have myself and a grounds team in place at the time, but there's not to say we've just come out of one of the wettest winters that I've ever experienced. Definitely, we get the same winter again, having not renovated, then with the greatest will in the world and all the machinery and all the stuff that we've got to produce a good pitch. Like, chances are it's going to deteriorate over the winter period. So I think one interesting thing I said to a few of my staff the other day is that actually people are probably going to have to go back to being groundsmen this year, in terms of they're going to have to go back to the old school stuff that they know, the cultural methods and stuff like that, because it's going to be really important to make sure that the pitches are kept clean and healthy, and that surface hygiene is at an absolute maximum if they're taking a pitch through another season, which is something that we're going to have to look at the training ground, definitely. If that's what we're going to have to do, then I think stuff like scarifying and top dressing and cleaning the surface of the pitch is going to be vitally important to us being able to get them pitches through the sort of the training season in particular. Like Dave said, stadium, we should be fine now. That's obviously my concern now. Is as soon as I got the go ahead for the renovation, it was like, well, actually, have we got enough time? Is someone going to turn around and say to me, Scott, you've got a game in 3 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem to be the case. I think everything's being fed back is the earliest would be the first week of June. But even then, I can't see that, to be honest. If our lockdown's going to be extended, we're probably looking at another 2 to 3 weeks. And again, as David and Stuart both said, is that the players are going to need that training time. I think they've requested 2 to 3 weeks before playing any football. So I think the games will come thick and fast then, mate. I think we'll almost play Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday until it's done. And we're kind of hearing of like a 4-week window in between the end of this season and the start of the next. But obviously that 4-week window is going to be reduced every time we get pushed back in starting. So yeah, it's just the uncertainty of it, I think, more than anything. Just a strange scenario.
And you've also got an involvement with an Italian club as well. So has that had any impact on your day-to-day, or are you kind of completely out of contact with that now?
So I was actually due to go there the week that we were locked down. Or we started the lockdown. So I had all my flights booked and stuff like that. I was due to go there, and then I was going to visit Scott in Nice on the way back, and that never happened. So yeah, they're on complete lockdown out there. They're not going to work. I think they can go to work for certain things, but I think they've just been stopped running and jogging and stuff like that. I think they can, like Paul was saying, it's very kind of, you have to have a specific reason to leave your house and stuff like that. So I think they're a bit frustrated. I've been keeping in contact with them. Obviously, I'm not going to be visiting anytime soon. So sure. I think we'll just see. I think they're based in Venice as well, or just north of Venice. So it's kind of that's really where it's quite sort of it's one of the harder hitting areas. I think it's obviously the northern part of Italy. So I think they're really conscious of what's going on and not trying to leave the houses too often. And so as a result, minimal contact for me, really.
So as far as you're aware, there's really nothing happening with your pitches out there then? No,
to be honest with you, I don't even think anyone's cutting the grass or anything. I think like Paul's been there, he knows it's a strange place. It's one that has a lot of potential, but it's one that kind of groundsmanship doesn't really exist out there. You know, so it's kind of they'll look at that and go, well, actually, we'll just pick that up when we need to, and then they'll quickly realise that it doesn't really work like that, and I'll be on a plane out to Italy, I guess. So we'll see.
You'll have a project in the future then.
Yeah, to be honest, I'd like to be able to go and do it. I think it's just I'm getting kind of frustrated that, I mean, like Stuart said, it's good to be back out on the tools. It's good to be doing stuff that isn't paperwork and isn't all the other stuff that comes, like all the stuff that I imagined being a grounds manager or head groundsman would be. Being in charge and being out there and getting on with it and getting stuck in, whereas actually it's not really like that. Once you get that role, it doesn't really work that way. So I mean, it's kind of been good to get back into that and cut some grass again and actually do some work. So yeah, strange.
Paul, again, different situation for you, different conditions in terms of climate, but also different conditions in terms of how far through lockdown you are. How do you think you're going to fare with your surfaces when things come back?
Yeah, well, the stadium's a bit of a weird one because we're obviously doing this big construction work on the stadium, and the only real window we get to do some serious work, really serious work, is the off season. So there's big question marks now in terms of what we're going to do with the project. In terms of, do we have to delay things? Do we change how we do things, or do we look to play at a different venue? None of it's totally decided yet. I've got a fair idea on what we're going to do, but we're going to be reconstructing the stadium pitch as well this year. We've got to reconstruct the pitch each year for 3 years through the different stages of the project. And at the moment, I've not started growing any turf in the turf nursery because, well, first of all, the plastic fibre is in Milan, which is the hardest hit place in Italy. So I can't get that here. Secondly, I don't know if we're going to be rebuilding the pitch, so I don't know if I need turf. So I can't really commit to, €300,000 around that kind of figure until I know what's going on. So it's all a bit of a up in the air at the moment. I think we will get playing again. We've got 11 games to play, 6 home games, 5 away games. But whether we play them in the Bernabeu, I'm not too sure. And in the training grounds, half the fields are renovated, which is a little bit ahead of schedule. And then there's also half of them are not renovated, and the ones that aren't renovated are basically the first team pitches because we don't know if they're going to come back or when they're going to come back, and also the second team stadium because potentially that could be a potential venue if we don't use the Bernabeu for our first team games. So it's all a bit up in the air at the moment. So in some ways it's good, and in some ways it's not so good. But it is what it is, and we'll just have to deal with it when we find out.
So we've had a quick look at where you think your playing surfaces are going to be and how you're going to deal with that. What do we think for the industry as a whole, the impact of this is going to be? Is there going to be some upsides? Is there going to be some downsides? Who wants to kick us off on that one?
For me, one of the, I think me and you have spoken about it privately, and I've spoken to Jeff Webb about this as well. The best way to improve football pitches in the UK is to not use them in January and February. Just have 2 months, no use of pitches. It's not about spending money on machinery or drainage or irrigation or colouring pitch. I'm talking about at community level. And you can probably see now, by not playing on the pitches for the last 5 weeks, all the pitches are now probably in pretty good condition. So if anything, this has probably highlighted that if you give pitches a little bit of downtime, they'll be in good condition. And I just think if we stopped using community football pitches for the whole month of January and February, all the pitches in the UK would be miles better. And of those 2 months, there's probably 7 weekends out of the 8 where the games are cancelled because the pitches are underwater. And then the one weekend they do play, they shouldn't play, and they destroy the field for the next 4 or 5 months and cost money to fix it, or they don't fix it. And I just think this potentially is highlighting now that if you give pitches a bit of downtime, they will naturally recover. So on a community level, I think the pitches are going to improve. On a professional level, I think the ones that don't do renovations, especially in the more so in the UK than say in Spain, because it's obviously a wetter climate. If you don't do a renovation, I think next winter, as Scott said before, at Watford a few years ago, they didn't do a renovation, and if you're not careful, you can get your fingers burnt come the winter. So it will. Groundsmen will have to think out the box and go back to some of the old school maintenance techniques, and whether some of the newer groundsmen have got that in their locker or not, time will tell. But I think ones that are not renovated, I think they will be under scrutiny come the winter.
Anyone want to add to that?
Yeah, I'm happy to add to that. Paul's absolutely right, and it actually highlights, even at professional level, exactly what happened at Ibrox. Going through the months of January and into February being one of the wettest months that I've ever known in record. We had 815mm rain fell during the month of February. We normally only got 115 mil. We had about 7 games played in that time. I lost a game because of waterlogged pitch. It highlights exactly that if you even things out a wee bit during January and February in the professional leagues, then the pitches will get into the summer much better. It also highlights the reason why we renovated Ibrox. For that reason alone, we would not have been able to go through another season without renovating that pitch. It had to be renovated, or we would lose games next season. Now, I don't know the number of games that will come, and none of us even know whether we'll get the same weather pattern, but it gives us a much better chance to get through those games renovating than if we didn't. So it's absolutely important that we try and reduce the number of games at all levels during the winter months. I know it's a winter sport, but we still have to be careful. Just because it's a professional pitch with highly trained ground staff, and whether they're stitched pitches, Deso pitches or whatever, they still need a lot of maintenance. And if you overplay them in bad weather, then games will suffer because of that. And ultimately, the surface conditions we come out at going into the summer months. So it's absolutely vital that we renovated. And I know a lot of pitches haven't done, a lot of clubs won't be able to, certainly in Scotland, for many reasons, financial reasons. I can see next season there being a lot of postponements if the weather turns nasty.
Stuart, different scenario for cricket, I guess, because now's when you want to be playing, and perhaps you don't want that rest just yet.
No, well, like I say, we were just coming into our season. I mean, my concern for cricket is that at the professional level, the very top level, the pitches are still being maintained, and we'll still do our renovations. And at the very, very bottom level, a lot of them pitches don't get particularly an awful lot of maintenance anyway, so that might make a massive difference to them. There's a huge middle ground of the community grounds, like Paul was saying. There's the community side where there's no income coming in from bar money, subs, anything like that. A lot of them are done by contractors, and the contractors, if they're not getting paid, then they're not doing the work on the grounds. Clubs will decide that, we can get away with not doing renovations at the end of the year. We could play a whole year. We could go a whole year without playing cricket this year. That's a distinct possibility for cricket. Obviously, we can't go much beyond October because of the weather and the nights drawing in. My concerns for that, probably 80% of the industry in cricket, that is in that middle ground, which, you know, the money's not coming in. The grant money won't be as much about, because we're not playing test matches, we're not playing the 100 series, you know, which was going to be a big windfall for cricket. And so I think, you know, we have to be very careful in the cricket industry that we don't miss out on doing some form of renovation. It might not be the extensive corrowing or anything like that a lot of places are doing now. It might just be the heavy scarifying, but that will be better than nothing. So I think we need to be very careful in our industry that we don't miss the boat on that.
Martin, I think one of the common goals, it doesn't matter if you're Real Madrid or whether you're a bowls club in Burnley, everyone's going to be hit in the pocket, and that will have some form of consequence. You know, I'm sure my budgets are going to be looked at, and I'm sure everyone else is on this platform today, and everywhere else in life. And obviously, money does make a difference. There's no question.
Yeah. The other knock-on with that, Paul, of course, is that, you know, clubs will be looking to save money. In the first place they look to save money is usually out in the field, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because they think, oh, it's only a bit of grass. People just cut the grass, and you know, anyone can do that. Any Tom, Dick, or Harry can do it, and they don't realise the skill that's involved and the knowledge that's needed. And I've got a fear that we will be cut with our levels of staffing, and they still expect the 100% professionalism and the 100% levels that we're trying to work to.
I think that's the issue as well. You get that age-old kind of, why are you renovating? The pitch looks fantastic, and it's like, well, you know, we know why we're doing it, and in January you will see why we're doing it. But that's one where somebody that's got to authorise that work to be done might turn around and say, well, no, it looks great. Let's just try and push it through. But they're not going to be the ones that are answering the questions in January when the players can't stand up, or when cricket can't take place because we're not quite ready, or whatever it may be. I think that's one issue. I think the finances, all very well sort of speaking about them, and people look at big football clubs and go, well, they've got loads of money, but they actually really rely on the money that comes in. You don't realise until something like this happens, just how actually, like, they rely on that gate every week. They rely on the money coming in, and fans coming into the stadium, and silly little things like buying a hot dog and stuff. You don't realise how much that contributes to the day-to-day running of a football club, which is, I mean, seeing it firsthand is crazy, really, to see just how much they rely on it. It's very difficult to try and convince somebody to spend the money on a renovation, not knowing when we're going to be playing football again. I'm quite fortunate at the position I'm in so much as they've been bitten before on that aspect, and that's the reason I'm here in the first place. So I'm quite fortunate in that respect. But obviously, we're seeing the flip side to that at the training ground. Maybe that's an issue we'll have to deal with. Maybe we'll have to go down a completely different route in terms of renovations and stuff there this summer, or not at all. So we'll see.
How many teams have renovated in the Premier League stadiums? Do you know?
There's a few. I think I know of about probably 4 or 5 for definite. I think a lot are actually quite seem to be quite scarred by the concerts and stuff. So a lot of them, although they know their concerts are going to be cancelled, until the concert is cancelled, they can't renovate the pitch because they don't want to have the concert on a newly seeded pitch. So they're kind of, I think a lot of people are actually going to miss out on this opportunity because now is the best time, I guess. Certainly from my point of view, I think now's the best time. I don't think we're going to get a bigger window. So I think a lot of people are going to miss out. Because
it'd be quite interesting to see next season if half the league is renovated and half the league hasn't. It'd be quite interesting to see the correlation between that and the pitch quality coming.
Providing that goes the right way,
yeah.
If the mature ones get through better than the renovated ones, we're in trouble.
Maybe, we'll find out one way or another which way is the right way. But it's definitely good.
It might just help people to justify that, why they spend that money as well, and why it's important to do renovation. We all know, but to the guy that sits upstairs and pushes the button on the order, he doesn't understand the money that he's spending, and maybe that will just show people enough. Maybe there's some positives that can come out of this for our industry as well.
Yeah, I mean, like now you don't really see bad pitches anymore, do you? So, like bad pitches. So I'd be interested to see next season if we do go back down to having 1 or 2 shockers in the league or not.
Did you actually see Ibrox in February, Paul?
I didn't, sorry. Okay.
That was a bad pitch.
Oh, was it? Okay. I didn't. I've not seen any Scottish football, to be honest with you.
No, I haven't seen much of Scottish football myself, to be fair, but Ibrox was bad in February. But was one of these things, and there wasn't nothing I could do about it. We just have to get through it.
Looking at the way people actually are going to do their jobs in the future then, guys, you think, we're going to come out of this with a different attitude on things?
I actually think that when we come out of this, I think there'll be a lot of social interaction. I think groundsmen, people, the public will want to go out and meet. I'll be happy to get out and meet and go and meet. The first show, I think, will be one of the busiest there'll be, whether it will be Saltex or it may well be Harrogate, the way it's going at the moment. But I think groundsmen will want to go and meet each other to discuss their issues, their problems, and maybe stand in a salt box and have a moan. But I think it's very important that groundsmen, or our industry as a whole, we have a duty here, because I think Joe Public's going to need sport of all walks of life, whether it be cricket, football, bowls, whatever. They're going to need that when they come out of this, because they're going to look to go back to these events, and they're going to come in big numbers, I think, because they want to get out. They've been locked up for 3, 6, 12 weeks, whatever it may be. And when football gets back and sport gets back, I think there'll be a big uptake. And as Stuart mentioned earlier on, I think we've all been in an unfortunate situation where, yeah, we'll be running with reduced staff at the moment, and they'll be expecting the quality to be exactly the same. Footballers being footballers, they don't recognise rain, COVID or anything. They just come back and expect the pitch to be absolutely perfect. So we'll have to work extremely hard to get that, to try and achieve it. And I think when we get out it, we'll want to socialise. There's no doubt about it. Things like this will become the norm, but you can't get a good meet up, a good blather, a couple of drams, and usually with a few pints in you, that's when the real truth comes out. So yeah, I'll definitely be desperate to come down and socialise with everyone.
Paul, you're known for being a social animal. Do you want to comment on that one?
Well, but basically, I've never, up until 5 weeks ago, I'd never had a video meeting in my life. But basically, because of this, the project's going to the stadium, there's meetings. I mean, I've got a meeting after this. It'll go on for 4 hours, a video meeting. And they're pretty good. Like the one I'm going to go on to this afternoon is with 30 people, and it doesn't work very well at all. But when you're 4 or 5 people, it does work pretty well. And I don't think it will necessarily change the way we work, but I think it might actually increase the amount of communication we have with other groundsmen and with also with companies, sales reps and stuff like that. I mean, if they're wanting to cut the costs and not stick 100 quid of diesel in their car and go and driving from Manchester down to Essex to tell Stuart about the new fertilizer range that he's got, maybe doing it by a video workshop or something like this will be the way forward. So, I mean, like today, I don't get the opportunity to speak to you guys in all together, and I think it's definitely a new tool that everyone's starting to become aware of, and I don't think it's going to change too many things. I still think, like David said, I think Saltex and Harrogate and things like that will still happen, but I think this could actually enhance our how we communicate and as you said off camera, things are becoming more automated in all walks of life. So you go to an airport now, the only thing you don't do now is actually fly the plane. You do everything else yourself. You check the bag in yourself. You print your own boarding pass off and all the rest of it. And like you say, automated lawnmowers and we've even now got, like Tottenham have got now the integrated lighting system, and bit by bit it's all becoming more and more robotic and automated and stuff like that. But I think it is nice every now and again to get together and have a good chat and have a couple of beers and talk face to face. You can't, nothing beats that. But I do think this type of platform will get used more and more because, it wasn't even in my way of thinking until this happened, and now I'm doing it every other day now.
You finding the same, Stuart?
Yeah, I mean, what I like about it is the fact it's like Paul says, if you get too many people on it, it's too unwieldy. It is, and people can't. They're talking over each other. You can't hear what people are saying. But a small number like this, half a dozen, it's ideal. I mean, I do some bits and pieces with the IOG, and going up to Milton Keynes, having a meeting there for 3 or 4 hours, that's a whole day for me. There's no pleasure in driving on the roads in the UK. If I can save an hour and a half, 2 hour journey each way, I'll be more than happy to do that. And the more you do it, the more you get used to it, the more you get the hang of it. You'll never do away with things like, Soltex, BTME, the Summit. I'd hate to think you're going to do the Summit like this, mate, instead of going overseas again. Because it's nice to see people face to face and just have those little one-to-ones, little chats. You can have a laugh in a large group, but there's nothing like a social gathering. But for business, these are ideal. I think they save a lot of time. They're saving a lot of travelling around the country, a lot of mileage, being saved. It's it's good for the environment. So it ticks the green box. I see this happening more and more in the future.
Scott, are you going to see any different changes because of what's come through this? Are you going to change the way you work other than video calls?
The way we work, probably not. No, I said we're pretty much. I kind of got a set way of doing things. I think I've probably been taught a certain way that says that's the way to do it. Doesn't mean to say you can't change and improvise and stuff. And I think this is a perfect example. When we're going back to the technology, I think it is easy to do. We even managed to get Braddock doing it last week, so it must be easy. But I think to be honest, it's like we started having team meetings at the stadium in particular, sort of 3 or 4 weeks before this kicked off. Every Monday morning, without fail, team meeting. Everybody knew exactly what the plan was for the week and what we were going to achieve. We've still continued that through this format. So although we've been working in separate groups, we've still kept up the meetings. We've had a bit of a laugh and joke at each other because somebody's laying in bed doing it instead or something like that. And to be honest with you, it's probably brought us a bit closer as a group as well because we're communicating. We're having sort of 10 minutes to have a bit of a chat about what we've been up to, albeit not very much. But then sort of still planning the week ahead and getting our work done at the same time. So not to say that we would do this necessarily going forward, but this might actually point out that actually I don't necessarily need to be at the stadium first thing on a Monday morning every week without fail. I can do this from the Turf Business Summit wherever we are, or I can do this from the training ground because I can go and have a meeting there, but then still have the stadium one. And I think it's kind of opened my eyes a little bit to how much you can get done. You don't have to necessarily be somewhere to be able to have the right impact. So maybe that's a positive from it.
When we get through this, and yeah, we will get through this, I'm sure. Do you guys think we're going to be longer term in a stronger place as an industry, or do you think we're going to have a really tough time for a while?
I think I'll start this one off. I think there's going to be certain parts of the industry that just below that very top level, say even like our level, we're not a flush club. We hold our head above water almost month to month, and to lose out on having 20 crowds in where we get all the beer monsters come in and drink like fish, and that's a great revenue source for us. We could miss on all that all season. We'll be looking to make hard decisions next year about staffing levels, and that has a knock-on effect to your maintenance levels. And then also, your time. We've got a good work-life balance at the moment, and I see in the future losing some of that for a short while, and then hopefully it'll pick up again because it's like Dave said. Everyone's going to be gagging for a bit of sport when this all comes out of here. They want to get out. They want to have a few beers with their mates. They want to go out and support their club, whether it's cricket, football, whatever, or play a round of golf. So there'll be a massive uptake on that. And I think there'll be a positive from that, but that'll take time for the money from that to feed through and help with the staffing levels. That's my biggest concern is the staffing levels. But, whether that happens or not, we'll wait and see. Depends how long it goes on for.
Paul, Stuart mentioned flush clubs, probably not too many more flush than Real Madrid. What's your view?
I'm a little bit more pessimistic, actually. I think until we get a vaccine for this, I think this is going to go on for, a long time. I think people are talking about when's the season going to start and all the rest of it. And I'm not so sure we'll be fans in the stadium next season. It's a high-level football. The biggest revenue is obviously TV money, more than the fans. The fans obviously is I don't know, maybe 20%, something like this, of the turnover. I think this is going to be until we get on top of this. I think this is going to go on for quite a while. I really do, because even when we find the vaccine, that still then has to be mass produced and distributed, and I think this could go on for quite a while. I really do. Hope I'm wrong. Really hope I'm wrong. But at the same time, I think in every bad situation we need to find some good in it, and you know, I mean, at the moment, Madrid, for instance, I don't think the air's ever been so clean. You know, with pollution and stuff like that. So maybe. I mean, I'm sat in an office block here now for 600 people, and I'm the only person in this office block since the 14th of March until now. And people can work from home. You know, I think you might find all companies in future are going to start working 2-3 days a week from home. And I know obviously we can't really do that in the job we're doing, but certainly some of our suppliers, like I said before, via video and and all the rest of it. I think potentially it's going to change the way we go about our daily lives, and in a way, if we can take some good from a bad situation, then I think that's obviously good as well. I think it'll be a shame if we get through all this terrible time and all this loss of life, and we don't change as people or improve. I think it's. I think it'd be a shame. I think it'd be a missed opportunity.
I think we've already changed as well, though. I mean, generally, people have changed. I know I'm doing stuff at the moment at home that I never thought I'd do. I actually get to wash my clothes. I've got enough time to wash my clothes. I go food shopping. I'm doing bits that, like before, I would just order stuff or I'd do whatever was easiest because I didn't have enough time. And I think it's just mad how much you get wrapped up in your own little world as to what you're going to do, whether it be like I work during the week, I play golf at weekends, or I've got a match day, or whatever we're doing. And you just basically almost get completely encompassed by that, and that's your life. And you didn't realise that actually there's more out there and there's other stuff going on. So I think that's I've certainly found that as a positive. First, I thought I was going to struggle, but I think I've found a few new things and a few new vocations maybe, and my pants are clean, so that's good.
David, what's your view? You think we're going to come out of this in a better place?
My view, coming from the Scottish perspective, is I'm glad that the independence thing in Scotland certainly has been put to the side, as it should be. We are working as the United Kingdom, together as United Kingdom, and everyone from the south of England, Wales, Ireland, we're working as one country, and that's the right thing to do. I kind of agree with Paul a wee bit. I don't see as much end to this. I think there'll be another spike. I think we've been protected quite a bit, and when that protection lifts and we start to go out the big wide world out there, I think there'll be another spike, and it wouldn't surprise me we end up in another closure probably in November or December time, and that worries me. I also don't think that we'll ever be the same again. I think groundsmanship will change massively. For instance, in my particular job in any head groundsman, grounds manager, there is actually, I can work from home a couple of days a week. I can do my ordering, I can do my reports, I can interact through this porthole. I don't necessarily need to be at Ibrox or the training ground. My deputies are there, I've got other people there that we can speak to and we can communicate with. So my role can change and I can work from home a wee bit. But I think there'll be a huge change in groundsmanship. It also worries me that groundsmen are very proud people. We will do our best. We will make our pitches and the training grounds look superb. And to the bosses up the stair, they'll think, that's great, that's brilliant. I don't need 10 staff. There's 6 staff doing that at the moment. We'll just keep that going. And only when things start to really go downhill again, maybe next year or the following year, will they realise that it's staff that's causing the problem. It's not the resources or the technology. It's simple, boots in the ground, cutting grass, doing things properly that will come back and bite them. So it worries me a wee bit, especially in the golf sector. The golf sector won't get money in, and I don't think that money will come in this year. So they'll run. Yeah, they'll get greens cut and you'll be able to pitch a ball onto a green, you'll be able to play a bit of golf. But to the level we're playing it before, no, I see this being a long term thing. And it worries me. And I think football and groundmanship in general will suffer for a few years out of this. I hope not, but we've all got to keep safe, and that underlying, and most importantly, that's the most important aspect. Every one of us keep safe. Sport pales into insignificance when there are people dying. And yes, we're all trying to do our wee bit and try and stay safe, but it doesn't really matter. We have to make sure that we keep ourselves safe, our families safe, and if we can go and do a wee bit of work and keep things ticking on, and football returns back, whether slowly or quickly, then we'll be there and we'll do what we can, and that's all we can ask for.